The CRJ-200, officially known as the Canadair Regional Jet, is one of the most criticized aircraft among regional airline pilots, and not without reason. While passengers might simply notice the narrow cabin and small overhead bins, the real struggle lies in the cockpit where pilots deal with its limitations on every flight. The aircraft's design is rooted in older technology, lacking many of the modern automated systems and protections that pilots rely on in newer jets today. This means more manual workload, especially during critical phases like descent and landing, where constant attention is required. One of the biggest complaints is the absence of leading-edge slats, which forces the aircraft to maintain higher speeds during approach and landing. This significantly reduces the margin for error, particularly in bad weather or at shorter runways. Pilots must be extremely precise with speed and positioning, as there is very little room for correction once committed to landing. Even small mistakes can quickly turn into high-pressure situations. On top of that, the aircraft is known for frequent minor mechanical issues, which increases workload and stress during operations. Pilots often have to monitor systems more closely instead of relying on automation. Combine that with long duty hours in a cramped cockpit environment, and the CRJ-200 becomes less of a stepping stone in a pilot's career and more of a daily endurance test that many simply tolerate rather than enjoy. The Lockheed F104 Starfighter stands as one of the most controversial fighter jets ever built. Designed during the Cold War, it was meant to be a high-speed interceptor capable of outrunning and outclimbing its enemies, and in terms of raw speed and climb rate, it truly delivered. However, this extreme performance came at a serious cost. Its design pushed the boundaries of aerodynamics in ways that made it incredibly unforgiving for pilots, especially outside of ideal conditions. The aircraft's razor-thin wings, while perfect for supersonic flight, provided very little lift at lower speeds. This made takeoffs and landings extremely challenging and risky, particularly for less experienced pilots or in poor weather conditions. The margin for error was almost non-existent, and pilots had to maintain precise control at all times. Even a minor miscalculation during approach or maneuvering could quickly turn into a life-threatening situation. The F104 demanded absolute precision, quick reflexes, and constant focus. Its high accident rate, particularly in German and Canadian service, earned it the grim nickname Flying Coffin. Many pilots respected its incredible speed and performance, but at the same time feared its instability and unforgiving nature. Flying the F104 wasn't just about skill. It required nerves of steel, intense training, and in many cases, a bit of luck to survive repeated missions. The Yakovlev Yak-38 represents a bold but flawed attempt by the Soviet Union to develop a vertical takeoff and landing jet similar to Western designs. While the idea of a VTOL aircraft sounds highly advanced, in reality the Yak-38 struggled to provide reliable and safe performance. It relied on a combination of lift jets and a main engine to achieve vertical flight, but this complex setup created serious risks, especially during takeoff and landing phases. If even one of the lift engines failed at a critical moment, the aircraft could instantly lose balance and become uncontrollable, leaving pilots with almost no time to react. This made flying the Yak-38 extremely dangerous, even for experienced pilots. In addition, pilots had to manage multiple systems simultaneously, which increased workload and stress, especially in already challenging flight conditions. The aircraft also suffered from limited range and payload capacity, meaning it couldn't carry much fuel or weapons, reducing its usefulness in real combat situations. Because of these limitations, many pilots saw it more as an experimental machine rather than a fully capable combat jet. Overall, the Yak-38 required constant attention, precise control, and quick decision-making, making it one of the most stressful and demanding aircraft to fly in Soviet service. The Blackburn Botha, a British aircraft from World War II, quickly gained a reputation as one of the worst bombers ever produced. Originally designed for reconnaissance and torpedo missions, it was severely underpowered right from the beginning. This lack of engine power meant the aircraft struggled to take off, especially when fully loaded with fuel, crew, and weapons, making even basic operations risky. Once airborne, the problems didn't end. Its handling characteristics were far from reassuring, with pilots describing it as slow, heavy, and unresponsive to control inputs. This made maneuvering difficult not only in combat situations but even during routine flying. On top of that, visibility from the cockpit was poor, limiting situational awareness and making navigation and targeting even more challenging. The Botha's design flaws were so serious that it was eventually withdrawn from frontline service and reassigned to training roles. However, during its short operational period, it left a strong negative impression on the crews who had to fly it. Many considered it unsafe and unreliable, turning what should have been a combat aircraft into a constant risk for those on board. The Lockheed U-2 is a unique case among disliked aircraft because it is both highly respected and deeply feared by the pilots who fly it. Designed for high-altitude reconnaissance, the U-2 operates at the edge of space, where the margin between stall speed and maximum speed becomes extremely narrow. This creates what pilots call the coffin corner, a dangerous flight zone where even a slight mistake can result in a stall or structural failure. It requires constant focus and precise control, leaving almost no room for error. Flying at such extreme altitudes also forces pilots to wear full pressure suits, similar to those used by astronauts. These suits are bulky and uncomfortable, restricting movement and adding significant physical and mental strain, especially during long-duration missions. Even simple cockpit tasks become more difficult, increasing fatigue over time. Landing the U-2 is another major challenge. Its long wings and unusual bicycle-style landing gear make it very unstable as it approaches the runway. Pilots often rely on a chase car with another pilot guiding them via radio from the ground to help them land safely. Despite its critical role in intelligence missions, the U-2 remains one of the most difficult and demanding aircraft to fly, requiring exceptional skill and concentration. The Vought F7U Cutlass is often remembered as a futuristic design that failed to live up to expectations. With its swept wings and lack of a traditional tail, it looked like something straight out of science fiction, and at first glance it seemed like a glimpse into the future of aviation. However, behind that bold design were serious performance and reliability problems that quickly became apparent to the pilots who flew it. The aircraft was powered by engines that were both underpowered and unreliable, which often resulted in poor performance and frequent mechanical failures. This lack of thrust made takeoffs difficult and reduced overall flight safety, especially during critical phases like carrier operations. Pilots also reported major issues with the control systems, which could behave unpredictably under certain conditions, making the aircraft difficult to handle with confidence. Carrier landings, already one of the most challenging tasks in aviation, became even more dangerous in the Cutlass due to its unstable handling and weak engines. As a result, accidents were common, and the aircraft quickly developed a reputation as unsafe and unforgiving. While the Cutlass was an ambitious and innovative design, the technology of its time simply wasn't advanced enough to support it, leaving pilots to face the risks of an aircraft that often didn't perform as intended. The Republic F-105, Thunderchief, widely known as the Thud, was a powerful and fast aircraft designed primarily for strike missions during the Vietnam War. It was capable of carrying a heavy payload and delivering it at high speeds, making it a key asset for bombing runs and tactical strikes. Its size and raw power gave it a reputation as a formidable aircraft, and in the right conditions, it could perform impressive feats in combat. However, the F-105's design also made it highly vulnerable. Its large frame and heavy payload made it an easier target for anti-aircraft guns and surface-to-air missiles. The aircraft required extensive maintenance, and its complex systems were prone to failure under the strain of repeated missions, adding to the risk for pilots. Many F-105 missions involved flying directly into heavily defended areas where the chance of being hit was high, and survival often depended on skill, timing, and luck. While some pilots admired the Thud for its speed and firepower, many criticized it for placing them in extremely dangerous situations with minimal room for error. Flying the F-105 demanded extraordinary bravery, precise judgment, and nerves of steel. Yet the aircraft offered very little forgiveness for mistakes. For those in the cockpit, it was a relentless test of courage and skill, cementing its reputation as both powerful and perilous. The Tupolev Tu-144, the Soviet Union's supersonic passenger jet, is a clear example of ambition, outpacing practicality. Developed to rival the Concorde, it was rushed into service in an effort to demonstrate technological prowess on the global stage. However, this hastened development created numerous problems that made the aircraft a nightmare for pilots and crews alike. The Tu-144 was extremely loud, both inside the cabin and externally, making flights uncomfortable for passengers and physically taxing for the crew. Its complex systems were often unreliable, requiring pilots to remain constantly alert and ready to handle malfunctions at a moment's notice. The aircraft's high-speed performance and advanced design only added to the challenge, as even minor errors could become critical. Several high-profile crashes during its operational period further tarnished its reputation and raised serious safety concerns. Pilots had to operate a plane that was not only difficult to control, but also prone to unexpected system failures, turning every flight into a stressful and risky endeavor. Despite its remarkable speed and engineering achievements, the Tu-144 ultimately failed to achieve long-term commercial success and was eventually retired. For those who flew it, the aircraft became a symbol of the dangers that come with prioritizing technological ambition over reliability and safety. Despite their differences, all these aircraft share one thing in common. They push technology to the limit while often ignoring the human factor. Pilots had to trust machines that were sometimes unstable, outdated, or overly complex, making every flight risky. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update.